Day one, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna talk quickly about clean eating basic principles and then water. So what we come down to is go back to old school and hydrate. Oh my gosh. I bet all the teachers in the group are like, really? With your little tiny cute whiteboard. All right, regardless. Clean eating is basically taking it back to simple, limited ingredients. If you've seen like that dog food commercial that talks about limited ingredients, basically same thing for human food. The reason why it's not as popular as the paleo diet or the keto diet or the macro diet or whatever other diet you could be on is because clean eating takes a little bit of prep work and planning. And it's just not as easy as buying something off the shelf and ripping it open and eating it. So simple, limited ingredients. If you can pronounce it, likely it's going to be all right. If it sounds like some next level chemistry class, it's probably way too processed and we need to just move on. Other than the molecules that the food breaks down to, but we're not going to get into biochemistry today. All right, so basically as close to the form in which it grew or breathed is how we want to eat our food. So, example, steel cut oats or rolled oats versus the package of instant oatmeal. Okay, so that each step you take in the processing strips away more and more nutrients. Each step you move into the processing of the foods adds salt and it adds sugar, and those are basically things that your body doesn't need more of because they're found naturally enough in our basic, simple biology foods that we need. Minimal processing, I've talked about that already, and I will talk about that all week long. Lucky you, all right? No added sugar. This is a huge one because there's sugar in there's sugar in hot dogs. I wouldn't know. Because I hate hot dogs, never eat them. I love hot dogs. When I say no added sugar, I'm talking like this stuff. This is the sugar I'm talking about. The stuff that's granulated, the stuff that you put in your coffee, the stuff that's always been sitting in the sugar bin, wherever. This kind of sugar is basically toxic. This is the kind of sugar that deadens the nerve endings in your body if you have too much of it. Maybe in another group down the line, I'll talk more so about carbohydrates. We already did a sugar detox group. And if you want more information about that, you can email me back. So, but we love sweet things, right? Because we're Americans and we have sweet tooth and it's important. So instead of granulated processed sugar, you can use 100% pure maple syrup. I use this in like baking, if I'm making oatmeal cookies or anything like that. You can use honey, pure honey, not honey-ish, teddy bear honey or honey product. Make sure it says 100% pure honey on it. Unsulfured molasses, it's so thick, that's why I have it upside down. I use this also, if I make my own beans, if I feel really spunky one day. And I'll also use that in baked products like banana bread and things like that, where it makes sense to use that kind of flavor. Coconut sugar is more of a pure unprocessed sugar from coconut. And we'll talk a lot about coconut because apparently coconut's gonna save the world and cure cancer and everything else, and everybody's obsessed with coconut, right? So if anything, as a first step, try to start decreasing your processed or added sugar intake. And a good example of this is if you have, oh no, oh, I dropped it. Oh, please. Whew. If you have your meal plan that you got in your email, and if you didn't get an email with the materials, drop your email below and I'll email it to you. Snack, plain Greek yogurt and fruit. So this is a big difference, and this is a really good example of clean eating. So you buy plain, you buy straight up, basic vessel, and then you can add your product to it, versus buying yogurt's a big world. There's like a whole aisle of yogurt, so that's how overwhelming and intimidating it could be. But you buy straight up plain. Generally, as far as dairy goes, you kind of want to find one hit in the middle. So non-fat dairy's been around forever, and we were always like, get the skim milk, always have to get the fat-free. It depends on what you got going on health-wise. But like a 2% plain Greek yogurt, or I still eat non-fat plain Greek yogurt, but I buy the whole Greek yogurt for my kids because they need more fat than I do. And then I add fruit to it. So then I have a snack versus buying strawberry flavored yogurt because that has this in it. Or that has high fructose corn syrup in it, which is mega processed. The more processed something is, the more our body doesn't know what the hell to do with it. And that's what causes a lot of the health problems. So that's a good example on this kind of basic example meal plan. You buy your plain Greek yogurt and then you add fruit to it. I like crushed pineapple in mine. I like unsweetened applesauce in mine. What else? If I'm feeling real fancy, I'll roast up some pears and chop them up and maybe a drizzle of honey and some cinnamon in it, because I really don't like plain Greek yogurt unless it's gonna have enough something in it to take away the sour creamy taste. I have no filter. Okay. No artificial sweeteners, ingredients, or preservatives. This means no Crystal Light. This means no diet soda. This means no, I can't believe it's not butter spray. I'd rather you eat a teaspoon or so of real butter than margarine. But again, that's my basic philosophy. That's how I eat. So that's what I teach. So it's more important for me to eat whole, clean food than a diet food, because all those are more expensive anyway. But again, I'm going to put this disclaimer on everything. If you've got crazy jacked up cholesterol, then you need margarine and not butter, especially if you have to put it on everything. But again, that's something that we can talk about. If you have specific questions, you can post them below always, or all throughout this group, or send me an email. Okay. So and then no added salt, or extremely minimal added salt. So I'll post a whole list in here about the different spices and herbs that you can do to bring out the natural flavor in the foods that we eat, so we don't have to shake salt all over everything. That's a toughie. If you've ever tried to decrease your salt, it's rough, because one of the functions of salt is that it's a flavor enhancer. So if you take salt away, your food tastes bland. So unless you have a backup plan, then you just better get used to really bland food. So I love cayenne pepper and red pepper flakes, garlic, like I could kill vampires. What else do I use? I use a lot of basil. I use a ton of cumin. All right, so I'll post that information in here as well. Reason being is, as we're transitioning to a more clean eating diet, or clean eating way of life, which is what I prefer. I don't really like the word diet because it's got the word die in it. It's kind of horrible. As we transition out, we're still going to have some processed food. If you buy bread at the store, it's processed food. Don't get too overwhelmed with it. But there's salt added to everything. If you buy something off the shelf, there's salt in it, unless it says no salt added. So we don't need to be adding a ton of salt on top of it. Now, there are certain things that I still add salt to. I add salt to over easy eggs. I cannot eat them. I can eat scrambled eggs with no salt, but I can't eat runny egg yolks without salt. It's just that we all got a thing. All right, you got to pick and choose your battles. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. I'm trying to keep these all at 10 minutes or less, and I'm already at 8. Okay, so basic clean eating principles. Very simple. Basically like a cook from scratch mentality. Make sure your ingredients are as natural and pure as you can get them. That doesn't necessarily mean organic. I'll talk about that later, but all natural and a whole food. So that means whole grain versus white bread. And I'll talk about more of that when we talked about the starchy carbs. No added white sugar, granulated sugar, no artificial preservatives. And one thing to look out for on your, I'm all over the place. If you flip your bread around, or if you have whole wheat tortillas in your house or anything like that, if you flip it around and it says anything like dough conditioners or any other kind of science-y thing that you really don't know what in the world it is, basically bread is flour, maybe a leavening agent, salt, and water. I think that's it. So any of the other stuff, oh, it may have some added vitamins for enrichment in there. So anything more than that, and that's going to be way too much of a processed food. And I'm pretty sure I forgot something. Salt, maybe sugar. So that'll be another thing too. If you buy sliced bread, then you need to find one that's maybe has honey in it instead of granulated sugar. But I'll get to all that when we talk about the starchy carbs. I realize I'm kind of rambling at this point. Let me stop. Simple and clean and basic. Next, water. As you are clean eating, your body will be processing your nutrients better because it can recognize it better. Your body recognizes a strawberry better than it recognizes a strawberry flavored something. So if you do not drink enough water to help move the food and all those vitamins and all that fiber and all of those nutrients through your system, then it's just gonna be sludgy. And your body's gonna be like, okay, I've got all this good stuff. I can kind of tell it's good, but it ain't moving and it can't get processed. And your kidneys get clogged up with byproducts of digestion. So you need to drink a ton of water to keep your body hydrated and to keep everything moving for gut health. So first thing I always recommend is 16 ounces of hot lemon water in the morning. You know what 16 ounces? An Eskimo Joe cup. So if you are watching from Oklahoma, then you know what this is. Everybody knows what this is. If not, find a cup that's about 16 ounces. And I drink hot water out of the tap. You can get fancy if you want to, or if you've got a thing against tap water, then use your hot pot or whatever you've got. Hot or warm, because imagine you were sleeping and somebody comes in and you're dead asleep, and somebody comes in and does an ice bucket challenge on your head while you're sleeping. Would that make you happy? I don't think so. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, if you drink ice cold water, your body gets shocked awake. And what happens with that is when you get cold, when you're cold, are you outside like, oh my God, I'm so cold and it's glorious? No, you're outside like, oh my God, I'm so cold. And you're so tense. So imagine if you throw that ice water down in your GI tract, it all tenses up and it clenches up. And that's how you start your day, being cold and tense and not happy. That's what your insides are. So the warmth relaxes. The warmth wakes it up slowly, stretches you awake. The warmth primes the system. The warmth gets everything rolling and going. It gets it woken up, if you will. The lemon is energizing. It can help restore pH balance a little bit. It just kind of helps. When you Google lemon water, it's going to tell you a billion thousand things. I don't agree with all of them, but I do like it because it makes me feel good. I think it helps clean you out. The essential oils in the lemon and the aromatherapy are really good. I bought this little lemon thing at the Dollar Tree, or just put it in a Tupperware or a baggie. You cut them all up, you squeeze some lemon in, and you go. And that's it. Half of your body weight in water a day is what you need to drink. So mine is 90 ounces. I need to drink 90 ounces of water a day. So the easiest way to keep track of that is you get a water jug. If you don't have one, you need to get one. Carry it around like it's your little baby, like it's your little security blanket, and you figure out how many of these you need to drink a day, and you get it done. Okay, so I drink 16 ounces of lemon water in the morning. When I work out in the morning, I drink another 16 ounces of water. And then I have to make sure and drink at least 2 more of these during the day. I have one before lunch, before my lunch break at work. I make sure to have one of these done. And then throughout the day, I actually usually drink 2 more of these. So whatever your current body weight is, divide that by 2, and that's how many ounces of water that you need to drink per day. And water means water. It doesn't mean coffee. It doesn't mean juice. Just because it's fluid doesn't mean it counts as water. If it's anything artificially sweetened, like as you're transitioning, if you have, you got a couple more Diet Dr. Peppers or whatever that you're going to drink, that doesn't count as water. If it's decaf tea, or if it's herbal tea, or if it's decaf coffee, and you don't put sugar in it, you can count that as water. But if you're making Shakeology, if you're making smoothies, or if you're making stuff like soup, doesn't count as water, that counts as food. Basically, I call it free water. So your free water you need to get. All right, so almost 15 minutes. Okay, so hopefully this was kind of a lot of information, and we're gonna go over more stuff tomorrow. I'm gonna post in here today a couple of tips and trips along the way about transitioning to more clean eating lifestyle and some easy recipes and